What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast episode. I have an amazing guest today who I have met recently via Instagram, and she has a very, very polished brand. And I had to have her on the show because I love people that get branding and are doing it right, like Tyler Harris, like our friend today, Hannah Carlson. Welcome to the show, Hannah. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Henry? Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of this stuff. But before we go there, I want to know how you created your personal brand from scratch and how did you get to this point in your career?
Well, basically, I started out like every entrepreneur. There's a dream, there's a vision, and then you just have to kick it into high gear. Are you willing to actually go and pursue your passion? So I was one of the few that actually did. I started out in college, and I started with a housekeeping business my freshman year. Yeah, it was $5 per room and per laundry load. I made a lot of money. It was super surprising. Everyone was like, oh, I thought about doing that. I was like, yeah, well, I actually did it. So that's when I realized that I'm definitely a high performer. You know, entrepreneur is overused these days, but being a high performer and executing and actually pursuing something that I'm passionate about. So
where do you think that came from, Hannah?
What do you mean?
Where did that high performance, where did that intensity inside of you come from?
I think it came from my dad, actually. Watching him, he went to college for 13 years. He is a top 5 surgeon in the world for spinal surgery. Oh, wow. He has his own practice and has partners, his clientele, his customers. Those are his focus. He is so passionate about his work. He does way better than any other doctor I've ever met or worked with in my entire life. He puts them first, and I felt the need that I wanted to be like that. Mm-hmm. He was my inspiration and my motivation. That's awesome. So yeah, it was great, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to be a veterinarian, but I did not have the grades whatsoever to get into college. So I went to college for interior design, event management, PR, and marketing. And with that, I have pursued my agency for event coordination, PR, and marketing, and I have 7 clients internationally right now. I'm still building the company, of course, but that's where I'm at right now.
I love it. So what do you consider to be, what's branding mean to you? That's what I want to know.
Branding means to me creativity, being able to go and do your own thing and build something without any rules, honestly. You're building your own brand. You get to develop however you want. There's no structure to it. It's being yourself, and everyone is a brand. Every single day we're going to be selling ourselves. And I think everyone knows that, or should know that. You are the brand. You are promoting who you are or what you're trying to represent. And we're using marketing to influence people's attitudes towards that and the perception of that brand as well.
Yeah, I like that. I like that you mentioned that there really is there's no wrong way. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I like to highlight, where that's what makes you unique. That's what makes you you. So like, stop trying, shouldn't I do it this way? Shouldn't I do it that way? Your market's going to tell you what they don't like and what they like. And maybe that you use as your compass, but putting your own creativity, like you mentioned, into it is so, so important, because at the end of the day, everything's been done, right? Everything's been done. It's now, how can we put our spin on it? How do we How do we articulate it differently and make it different? And so we were talking offline, and I wanted to bring this up. And the topic of today's conversation is creating a great customer experience. And you being in the field that you are, and the expert that you are in this field, you know, I said to you, you know, businesses should be looking at creating customer experiences like a 5-star hotel.
Absolutely.
And if specifically if you're selling a high ticket product or service, you know, the tolerance of error gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So, you know, when I visit high-end hotels, or they're almost like impeccable. And so that's the way I kind of look at it. When I am onboarding a new client, I look at it as like a concierge service. Like, they're coming to me because they want the process. They want the hands off. They want me to guide them and direct them into the end result that they want. Now, where do most people go wrong when it comes to creating this experience?
In the beginning, actually, you have to differentiate, you know, are you passionate about the work you do, or are you there for the paycheck? That's the difference. And that's how I network with people. When people reach out to me like via Instagram or Facebook, and they're like, hey, I just want to hop on a call with you, and I'm trying to pursue this industry or this market, or I'm trying to develop myself as a person, I'm like, okay, are you passionate about what you're doing? Or are you just trying to make money off of it? Because that's the difference. I met a kid at a mastermind event a couple weeks ago, and he's like, oh, I don't want to give out my product for free to influencers. Like, they have to pay for it. I'm like, but why? Like, if these people can promote your product for you that you could get money from,
right?
Why not do that? Why not give them it? He's like, well, it's about money. I'm like, oh, no. No, it's not about the money, because if you want to build a brand, you have to build that credibility. You have to build the references. You have to build your testimonials. You have to build that through friends and family in the beginning, people that are willing to help you initially. Then you push that out to potential consumers, people that may invest into you with money financially or sponsorship, or be willing to actually promote the brand, if anything.
Yeah.
So I think that people need to find out, whether that be like the hard way or not, giving out product for free or services for free and then getting a testimonial, you need to start out that way.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's about a concierge service. You want to be that 5-star and going above and beyond anything that's possible to make your brand credible.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to these days is, you know, are you what you say you are? You know, and the internet makes it really easy to sniff out the garbage and to highlight the experts, the true experts. And without that credibility, without that reputation, like you're pretty much screwed. I don't know how else to explain it, you know. And one of our friends, our mutual friends, Jason Ciano, you know, he does a really good job with highlighting his day-to-day and really showcasing his expertise in what he does. So big shout out to Jason if you're watching this.
Absolutely, great guy.
Yeah, and same for you. And so creating that experience. So basically what I heard you say was question your motive. Like, ask yourself why you are doing what you're doing in the first place, and make sure that that's in alignment with your mission, your goal, your passion, your values. Right or wrong?
Right.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
All right. What are some other things that can help us create? Because you're in the PR world. You're constantly pleasing.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. It's difficult because every single client feels like they're right and this is the way that it should be. You know, you have to differentiate, like, are you coming from a professional standpoint, can I make myself in that position? So talking with clients, I have to be understanding and let them voice their opinions. Like, you know, everyone understands that weddings are chaotic and brides feel entitled. I've worked weddings before, so I think that was the best thing that taught me how to deal with people, dealing with a bride.
If you can deal with brides, you can deal with
You can do anything. Yeah, so making sure that the customer feels like they're being heard, for sure. Clients, customers, all of the above. But knowing that you're coming from a professional standpoint and staking your opinions and letting them know, hey, I'm in charge. I know what I'm doing. I can get your brand where you want it to be. However, we're not going to do it exactly like you like, but I understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah. So how do you take position back? That's a good question. I don't want to go too far off topic, but how do you regain your position when a client tries to become the director of the show?
You're paying me. So it kind of goes back to, like, are you trying to develop a relationship? Are you trying to build this brand? If you are, then why am I here? If you feel like you can do it on your own, why don't you do it on your own? You know, we have a contract in place for a reason that's going to protect both of us. And going back to the credibility, that's why you have credibility. That's why you have references. Yesterday, I had a new client and they're very old school. They wanted to do press releases for cryptocurrency. And they're like, we've never done this before, so we're not really sure how this goes. We need some references for you. I'm like, okay, let me bother everyone else's time right now to give me a reference letter for you so I can make your dreams happen. I'm like, okay, let me vent to some colleagues right now about this. But, you know, in emails, I'm very professional. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. It's okay. I understand. Whatever you need. But in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
But definitely taking back that position, you need to understand where your position is and don't overthrow the client. Don't make them feel like you're trying to take charge of everything in their lives.
Right.
You are there just to develop their brand, and they have to see that. They have to see that you're, you know, potentially passionate about what you do, what they do, and you can help cross promote.
Yeah, I love it. So one of the things that I want to share this because it's top of mind and I want to make sure that my audience hears it. My mentor, a guy by the name of Chris Doe, very, very, very successful man, you know, works with, you know, Chris Martin from Coldplay. I mean, the list goes on and on of the celebrities and the clients that he had. So he's 22 years into the game. I'm 10 and a half. He does essentially everything that I do, but charges 15 times as much. And and rightfully so. He's worth every penny.
Yeah, of course.
But one of the things that he taught me was when you're looking at branding, you're looking at building that relationship between the business and the client. And there's two things that you want to do with branding is to better understand your customer and appreciate them. So how do you do that? So he taught me a very strategic process that I bring all my clients through. It's very systematic, it's very thorough, and it's the process that helps them understand their customer. Now, on the flip, how do we appreciate them, right? Well, there's 1,000 ways to Sundays we can appreciate them, but I think one of the biggest ways to appreciate them is to create that beautiful customer experience for them so that they tell 1,000 of their friends, this is what I experienced when I was working with Hannah. This is what I experienced when I was working with Henry. And it's one of those experiences that I'll never forget. That's how you truly build brand. So it's understanding them and appreciating them. And by appreciation, I mean by creating a beautiful customer experience for them that they'll never, ever forget. So I'm talking about the little tiny things. I'm not talking about the grandiose things. I'm talking about maybe writing somebody a handwritten letter, right? That says, thank you for being awesome.
Absolutely.
I think it's in my other desk drawer, but like I have a stack of thank you cards, and every time a client graduates from the Brand Accelerator program, I send them one of those handwritten. My handwriting is awful, but I don't care, you know.
But it goes the extra mile, of course.
Yeah. So creating that experience. So let me ask you a question. Let's get the party started a little bit. What is one customer experience, client experience that just went, you don't have to use names, but just went super south and it went haywire, and what happened and how did you regroup and get back on top?
There's so many instances. It basically all comes down to what people feel. And I guess one thing that happened recently was, you know, I was under contract with a networking group, and they're all kind of like hippy dippy and, you know, meditation, vibes, all that stuff. Like I'm cool with that, of course, but it's not my thing.
Right.
So I was, you know, doing their marketing and events, and I put on an event for them, and they were late. The hosts of the networking event were late. The guests were late. Only 2 people showed up, and they're looking around like, where are the hosts? Yeah. And it was a very big deal. It was a huge partnership, a huge endorsement potentially. They didn't get it because they didn't show up. Like Orange is the New Black cast, the New York Knicks. There was so much happening at that event, and they didn't show up. I was like, okay, like, how do I get this? And it was so hard for me not to show like my heart on my sleeve at that moment. Like, my emotions were so raw, and they came 2 hours late.
Oh my, not even like 5 minutes late.
No, to their own event. They showed up late, and they got mad at me for showing my emotions. They're like, it's all good. Like, everything's fine. Like, we're here. I was like, no, it's not all good, because I'm representing your brand now, which is not my job. And I'm representing myself and everyone here that I made this happen for. So that kind of fell through. They had a call with me later. They're like, yeah, we don't feel like the vibes are going well. I was like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't say.
Yeah, the feeling's mutual. And that goes to show, like, I think full transparency, I think when you lay down and showcase and articulate the experience and expectations that they can soon see if they come on board, if you spell that out clearly in the beginning, there really shouldn't be any issues, right? I think what happens is sometimes maybe we get too excited for the sale, or we don't have efficient process. Yeah, we don't have efficient processes in place that are well ironed out. And that's what happened to me, you know, early. Well, I should say late last year, I was still refining my process and trying to figure out how can I make a more seamless experience for my client, right? And I didn't have the right processes in place, and a very disgruntled client came through, and unfortunately the project didn't get done to his liking. Right. You know, started to get a little vicious and aggressive, and so that's where my blood started to boil a little bit. But it was a learning lesson.
Absolutely.
You know, it was a bee sting that I needed to get stung by, really, to make 2018 the best year ever. You know, and I looked at what the hell happened here. What fell apart? You know, what broke down? And I realized that I let the client take over the show, and I'll never do that again. So that's number one. Number two, my processes insist, like I said, there was too many leaks So like things were falling through the cracks, and that doesn't lead to efficiency at all.
Right.
So once I was able to plumb all of those leaks and cracks and really streamline, and Chris helped me tremendously with my process. He said, dude, you got to bring me every time something breaks, you got to write it down. And you got to be very specific.
Reflect back on it and never have that again. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we meet once a month, you know, I have a list of some of the things that sort of broke down, whether it be communication, whether it be process, whether it be and he's super good. You know, that's 22 years of experience talking back at you, right? You know, he's really good at saying, try this, try that, do this, do that. And I'll tell you, it's just been a wealth of, it's been a great experience. Every time so he's not cheap by any means, but every time I talk to him, I get a 5X return.
Yeah.
So I'll triple down on that.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah. I'll triple down on that every time, you know, and my wife, who is like super, I wouldn't say super conservative, but she likes to know where the money's going, right?
Sure.
For her to say, I think you should continue to invest in Chris because I see a better you and I see a better business, that says a lot. It says a lot. And so it makes me, again, showcase that we're all human. When we're creating business, we're all learning new things. Every day is a new experience, but paying close attention to the customer experience is vital to succeeding in the future. And the biggest reason why I wanted to have you on the show today is because I wanted your perspective on how important experience is. So we talked about a horror story, but give us another story that worked out really, really well, where you came out shining and your client came out and they were absolutely elated by your deliverable. Talk to us about that.
I'll absolutely talk about the first client that I ever had. That was a college kid, DJ. Okay. He was pursuing, he went to New York and went to DJ school, came back to our university and was like, hey, you are super OCD, you love networking with people, and you're highly involved in the nightlife industry. So I need you as a manager. I'm like, never done this before, but let's do it. This was about junior year or senior year. So we just went for it. I said, let's fake it till you make it. And we went off without a hitch. His Facebook blew up, his Instagram blew up. I started doing his branding, doing rebranding. Actually, he developed like his own logo, his own website. I'm like, no, we're going to do a full takeover and get you a website developer, brand new logo design, an entire production team. And I got him opening gig. His first gig was with Andy Grammer. And he was so appreciative of that. He had fans that came from different states to come see him and met with him and were crying and taking pictures with him. And he's like, I've never had this experience before. Thank you so much for making this happen. And we continued that for another year. Then he pursued a different direction, but it was a good experience because we're on the same level and we're on the same team to make his brand possible and something that he is passionate about. And I fully want to invest in people that are passionate about their brands, because if they're like teetering to one side, like, oh, I'm not really sure what I'm doing, but this is kind of what my hobby is right now, like, you need to find your passion.
Yeah.
This is a crucial point to anyone that wants to build a brand, for sure.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty good experience. And I think that really motivated me to continue doing that because I enjoyed it.
I love that. And here's the thing. You mentioned something that struck a chord with me. You said that your values were in alignment, or you were in a line. Both of you had the same sort of vision. You had the same sort of, you knew where he wanted to go intuitively. He knew he had the confidence in you to take him there, and it was a great win-win. And I strongly encourage the folks that are watching and listening that it's really important to qualify the client just as they're trying to qualify you. You know, you really want to make sure that it's going to be a win-win situation. And, you know, when clients come on board with me and we go through the introductory call, and it's me just hammering them with questions, because I really want to know the ins and outs, and the right. Really, I want to know their promise that they're making to their clients, because if I don't know that, then I'm going to be useless to them. Exactly. If I don't know what makes
you can't back it up. Yeah.
Right. If I don't know what makes them tick, it's going to be really hard, you know, after we start working together, to try to figure that out as we go. I'd rather know that up front, because if there's one thing that just rubs me the wrong way, and the same goes for the client, if there's one thing about me that may not have sat well or resonated, let's get that out on that call.
Mm-hmm. So absolutely get everything done in the beginning. Yeah.
Right. So I like how you said before, like, the way you position a great customer experience is in the very beginning. Yeah. You set the expectations, you set the tone, you showcase your expertise, and you demonstrate, you give them examples. Social proof is huge, you know, and you show them, and it either is going to jive or it's not going to jive. And the more value that you can provide up front, I think it's going to give for an easier decision. Right. So any last words? I have to ask you this question, because I was on a podcast this morning. Big shout out to David Ralph out in the UK. He's got a phenomenal podcast. It's called the Join Up Docs podcast. You have to check it out. This guy's full of energy.
Nice. More than you?
He makes me look like I'm lazy.
Oh my goodness. Wow, I'm going to have to listen to that.
Yeah, and his accent kills me. He was telling me, so at the end of his podcast, he says to me, this is where we do, like, he called it like the sermon or something, right? He said, if you could go back and talk to Henry as a child, it doesn't matter what age, you pick the age, what would you tell him, knowing what you know now? Mm-hmm. So my question to you, Hannah, is if you can go back and tell little Hannah a piece of advice to help her along her life's journey, entrepreneurial journey, whatever that may be, mm-hmm. knowing what you know now through the experiences that you experienced, what would you tell her?
I would say first impressions are vital with branding, with engagement, with anything in life, because you are your brand. So first impressions are going to be the biggest thing. And I encourage a lot of people to understand that, especially like college kids. Like they want to go and be rebellious and do these crazy things, but really, like, that is the time to find yourself and find who you are as a brand, what you want to do with your life, and what impression are you leaving on the internet, on, like, in person, in interviews. You're building that awareness initially with people and your credibility to build trust, to build fans, to fuel your marketing at that point. So I would say always, you know, little Hannah, always remember that first impressions are going to build you as a credible person.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I say, if you own it, you know, own whatever brand that you want to establish for yourself, mm-hmm. own it. And again, the amount of, I always tell people will pay you top dollar based on the level of confidence that they see that you have.
Oh yeah. Right.
And so you really have to own your brand. You have to own the fact that you don't like to wear shoes, right? So like I do these podcasts barefoot all the time. I'm
barefoot too. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, you know, I don't care. Like there's one shot angle that you get and you can see my feet. Who cares? Like I am the most comfortable man right now. You have no idea. Right? And so that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of people are afraid of getting rejected or whatever, the fear of failing or whatever that case may be, the fear of not fitting in, dude, stand out. Like that's the new you know what I mean? Absolutely. So I appreciate you, Hannah, for coming on board and sharing your expertise, sharing your experiences with us. And for those folks that want to follow you and learn more and follow your journey, where could we go?
We can follow on Instagram at the.hannahcarlson. Also, plug real quick, shout out to Entrepreneur, sponsor of this podcast. Just kidding.
I love it. I love it. Well, there you have it, guys. Another Brand Doctor podcast episode in the books. Couple quick things. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet or subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please go ahead and do that. I invite you to do that. And I thank you in advance for that. If you are enjoying this content, please write a written review on iTunes or a comment on this video. And I will tell you that is the fuel that drives this show, and I can't thank you enough. I just noticed that we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube just a couple days ago, and that's a huge thing. So, I know it's so tiny compared to some other people, but the fact that 1,000 people are interested in what I have to say is heartfelt and really appreciated. And I just want to say thanks again for everybody that supports the show, supports the Brand Doctor, and continues to follow my journey. So have an amazing day, guys, and I will catch you on the next episode. Take care.